All right, everybody. I just wanted to spend a few minutes and help address some of the panic that I've heard over the recent announcement by Kubernetes that Docker was no longer being supported. There's a lot of confusion, and so I wanted to just set a few things straight. First of all, the TLDR, if you don't want to go beyond a 2-minute mark, Docker is still a perfectly acceptable tool for developing containers to be deployed in Kubernetes. There's nothing that's going to stop that. As long as Docker continues to adhere to the Open Container Initiative's specifications, everything's fine. And there's no reason they wouldn't. If you're an application developer, it's likely you'll need to change nothing. If you maintain infrastructure, you might need to make some minor changes to your infrastructure sometime in the next 6 to 12 months. So let's dig into it a little bit. First of all, a little background. Containers themselves have been around in some form for decades, but it wasn't until about 5 or 6 years ago when Docker made them popular and easy by specifying a simple way to define them in Linux. Docker and a few other corporations got together and formed the Open Container Initiative to define standards around containers. And then Google created Kubernetes, which helps administrators manage those containers at scale. Part of the Kubernetes specification is a couple interfaces, including container runtime interface, container networking interface, and container storage interface. The one that we're concerned with here is the container runtime interface. So, what's the big kerfuffle here? Well, Docker, as a tool, is for people. It includes things like user experience, the container runtime, creation and manipulation tools, networking tools, and a bunch of other stuff. Kubernetes isn't a person, so it really only needs the runtime out of Docker in order to do its job. Early on, they created a piece of software called Docker Shim, which is exactly that, is a shim that sits between Kubernetes and Docker that helps Kubernetes leverage Docker's runtime directly. What they've announced is simply that they're not going to support Shim anymore. So Docker Shim is going away. What does that mean for you? Well, if you're a developer and you use Docker in your day-to-day work, you can keep using Docker. Things like Docker Run for testing and all of the Docker build tools are perfectly fine for building OCI compliant containers and getting them into a container repository. If you're an admin, there's two possibilities here. If you roll your own Kubernetes, then you should start looking into Cryo or Containerd, which is actually the guts out of Docker, or another OCI compliant CRI or container runtime interface. If, on the other hand, you're using an enterprise solution like OpenShift from Red Hat, then you're already using a different container runtime that's built into that. So hopefully this cleared everything up and everyone understands now that it's not a huge kerfuffle. If you're a developer and you use Docker, keep using Docker. If you're a system administrator and you use Docker as part of your own rolled Kubernetes, then you might need to make some adjustments and changes going forward when the deprecation actually takes effect. But if you're using an enterprise or cloud-hosted solution, you're probably fine there too. Hopefully this helped. If you like everything, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be putting a lot more videos up soon, and hope you all have a great day. Peace.